committee terms and appointments. So this is something that has come up from time to time, over and over again, and I think it's time for us to look at all of our boards. Most of these boards have had members on there for a long time, which is fine. It's hard to find good people to be on boards, but as it's turned out, we're pretty much out of, everybody's got the same term. It's whenever you decide to leave or don't do it, we appoint somebody else. And I think it's, for continuity, we need to try to set these boards up to where we have the right number of people on them. We have a staggered rotation of terms, so that if everybody on the thing decided they were going to quit one day, we wouldn't have to start from new. We'd have a way to have some continuity there with some experience on the board, bringing in new people. So we've got several boards here. We've got the information on who's on these boards, and some of them. Let's see here. We've got. I think our biggest one that we probably need to work on the most would be our planning and zoning. Is that right?
Right. And I would, if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say that for the most part, most of the terms have expired.
Right.
And on all of these, and you'll probably be looking at accepting applications for almost every board position, except the Board of Elections. I think there are 2 vacancies there, and the Minokan River Park Commission,
which is okay right now, right?
Okay. Well, that's the question that I had. Commissioner Johnson, are you?
No, I need to come on.
Okay. So that would be 1. That's Commissioner Johnson.
Do these terms, are they already staggered on that?
Yes.
Board, so that we've got a way to, so we would maybe appoint someone to finish out her term, and then they could be reappointed, obviously, if they would like to stay or do a good job.
Yes.
They could stay on, but to keep that staggered, this is what
Yes.
we're trying to make sure that we're doing.
The ones that are on the plan and zoning, 2012, 2017, 17. What are we going to do about that? We just going to let them keep on rolling or what?
Well, if last year, again, most of everyone had expired. So last year, we had asked if some of the current members would like to stay at least for another year, and most of them said yes. I believe they all said yes. So now we could still reach out to them and say, you want to continue, or we could make a decision to advertise for all of those positions as well. That would be up for commissioners to decide.
You can reappoint for the term. Usually they're 4-year terms, 3 or 4-year terms. So you can reappoint, or you can ask for the repeat.
And this is a 5-year.
You're sure?
Yeah,
5-year, okay.
So it's commissioner's choice.
Get applications and see who's interested. And we can go from there. If we don't get enough people, then we can actually move something on the board and determine what they still want to do. At least we give a chance for new people to come in and get ready, and register and do it.
We could certainly ask current members to reapply, I guess, if that would be right, or put a letter of interest back in, as well as anyone else, and then we would have a pool of names to go from. How would we go about setting up the board in a way that we have a staggered terms? One of the boards that I was on years ago, we had the same issue, and what we did was we asked, or we had 2 members of a 5-member board. We had 2 members that stayed on for 2 more years.
3 or.
And then, right, and then as new members came on, they would be on for 5 years.
Right.
And after those 2 years were up, those positions would be appointed at that point for 5 years, and then you've got a staggered thing. So it would take 2 years to really get the staggered part started, staggered term started. But and I would like to maybe encourage us to look at least 2 or maybe 3, if we want to do 3 members that have been on the board to stay for 2 years, if we want to do it that way. But we've got somebody on there that's been on the board and not completely turning it over with no experience or nobody. That's just a thought I had. I know Mr. Spicer, he's been sort of chairing that board for a couple of years, right?
Yes.
He's got a lot of knowledge. Comprehensive plan. We've really got to start looking at doing a new comprehensive plan, which the Planning and Zoning Commission, that's a huge part of their, that takes a lot of hours and a lot of time of their part to do that. So we want to experience people that, and they, we don't have to be the same ones that are on here, be some new ones. But,
get up with them or call or meet with them and find out what's going on, or if they want it.
yeah, Hayward, we did. Could we do a?
Town, reach out.
Okay.
But is it a question of, because I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, some of the commissioners may not even know some of the folks on the board. Right? So, it may be a good idea. I don't know if you would think about, some of the current members would like to continue, they can always come in, and I don't know how you feel about that. Come in and I don't want to say, sort of like an interview, or you can just, talk to them and go from there. But I don't know what, so once we determine who's going to stay and who we need to appoint, what does that process look like? I think that's something else we should talk about tonight as well. What does that process look like? Do we simply accept a letter of interest and kind of read it and go through it and it sounds good, or do we want to sit and actually interview the person, get to really know what, for example, on the Planning and Zoning Commission, we definitely want to make sure that there's some knowledge of planning and zoning, land use practices there. There are on boards like the Historic District Commission. One of the things that we definitely like to know is do you have experience in historic area work, reconstruction, demolition, and things
That's
like that?
actually a board that we dissolved, is that right,
Well, yeah.
or not?
It's still on there.
We
did dissolve that.
We dissolved because there was no historic district.
Gotcha.
I think we need to have some kind of questionnaire, that we can
Okay.
ask,
And maybe the chair of the board could be part of that discussion with us as well?
Yes.
What would it look like, or would it be okay if we had a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission as it is now?
Sure.
During a work session, is that good, or?
Typically, it's fine. Typically, you're looking for expression of interest. Or somebody may say, I would like to be off.
Right.
Somebody else may say, I'd like to be on.
Right.
And then all of you get to decide how you want to do it.
Well, we may have a couple of people on this current board that are looking for a way to get out.
Right.
And this might be it. Or say, look, things have changed in my life and I really don't have time to do it or whatever. So, and they may all want to stay on, but we still need to ask or figure out which ones of them are going to have a half term before we re-up them to get the staggered term. So we can have those discussions with them as well, and see if they'd be willing to do that. Hopefully it doesn't come down to one of us has got to figure out which one has they get the half term. I'd like to give them an opportunity to see. And here again, after a half term, they could still be reappointed for a full term. So just need to get those terms staggered, I think. So, well, there's several boards here. We could start, you know, the appeals board doesn't meet unless it's needed, so maybe they won't be needed too often. We could do that a little later. The historic district, we don't have to worry about it. Supervisor elections, we don't have to worry about it. So like I said, the planning and zoning is really, we do have an ethics board, correct?
Yes.
And that's another one that probably, probably needs to be revitalized as well. But I would say, unless you guys have a different opinion, I would say the planning and zoning commission is probably the one we should start with and try to get taken care of first.
I agree.
I agree,
You said that one on the open field?
yeah,
But we're talking about it.
I would like to, I like the idea about the interview, you know, getting to talk to the ones, the current members that are on here as well, because a couple of them I don't know. So I like that idea, and then expressing, the interest, having an interest application.
So you would want them typically to accept a letter of interest. I know Mr. Porter, you mentioned the questionnaire. Is a letter of interest
Pretty much.
pretty much?
But
You could ask in the letter for background, educational background, whatever, work background.
So the letters of interest.
so we'll come up with maybe, how should we word that criteria for your letter of interest? So that should be something maybe,
I mean, as you were mentioning, the letter of interest should obviously include your interest, why you want to do it,
right,
what your background is, and things like that. You know, your education, work experience, I mean, things like that.
and it's also a good question for some of the members of the planning and zoning. What's made you a good member, or what type of things would help a new member? What would they need to know to kind of help them do a good job of this as well? So maybe come up with a draft criteria for a letter of interest that we could look at as well. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
That-
And what you want to accomplish.
That's right. Should we try to do that in October, bring them in October meeting?
Yes.
See who can come?
Work session.
Work session, yes, yeah, I'm sorry, work session.
We'll reach out to them this week, and I'll have the draft criteria by next week.
I think once we get to that point, we kind of get that one figured out, we can go through all the boards and we'll have a framework done for that. Awesome. Any other discussion about that at this point? Sure, you guys okay? Would we hear anything from our, from the citizen comment on this? We have someone wants to speak on it. You guys okay with that? Yeah. Right? Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody. Dale Parker with CROPA. And regarding the boards and commissions, just could you list them really quickly, the boards that are available, or all of them? So I've got the planning and zoning, appeals, elections, ethics, and park board. Is that all of them?
That is correct.
And so my question is, do you have, like, are you guys thinking of like a formula of the composition of the board in terms of the background, not necessarily just in terms of their professional background, but because our perspective is that we need to have community members, regular community members, be a part of these boards so that they can begin to understand the processes that are involved in being on the planning and zoning, to be, what does it entail? So I'm wondering if there's any like preconceived notion of like the background of the people that would be appointed to the board.
Okay. So that'd be something for us to discuss when we talk about the criteria for having them come in and stuff like that. Thank you.